Walang knowledge, walang power.
Good day!
I am Fransbeth Samson.
I am Donald Sarmiento.
And I'm Titus Yunralao.
And we will discuss about creating value through banking and investing decisions.
In this topic, we should determine how financing and investing decisions create value. We would know the different methods of evaluating potential investments. Financing decision involves two sources, from company's own money or from borrowing of funds. Investment and financing decisions must contribute together to create value for the company's shareholders. Its objective is to maintain an optimum capital structure. Capital structure is how the firm's assets are financed. It is the proper mix of debt and equity. Note that the more use of equity will result in the dilution of ownership, while higher debts result in higher risk as fixed cost in the form of interest is to be paid on the borrowed funds.
Debt-equity ratio helps in determining the effectiveness of the financial made by the company. Finance manager has to take the following points into consideration. Risk is higher in the case of debt compared to the equity. Source with minimum cost must be chosen. Level of control determines the composition of capital structure. Shareholders usually prefer the borrowed funds since it does not dilute the ownership. The cash flow determines the source from where the funds shall be raised. High cash flow enables to borrow debt as interest can be easily paid. Weighted average cost of capital, or WACC, measures a company's cost of capital. To calculate the WACC, as shown on the screen, the impact of debt and equity on the total capital structure has to be taken into account, since financial charges are tax deductible, whereas dividends and retained earnings are not. However, it must not be concluded that a company should be 100% debt financed because the more debts, the higher the risk of financial distress will be. If the return on investment remain equal, a rise in the cost of capital will cause a decrease in the company's profitability and in shareholders' wealth. To understand better, take a look in this example.
WACC is used internally by a company's management as part of determining whether it would be profitable for the company to finance a new project. It is also used by investors as one way to value the company's shares and decide whether to invest. The higher the WACC, the less likely it is the company is creating value because it has to overcome more expensive borrowing costs in order to make a profit. Mary is considering an investment in John's Gyms. She determines that the company is producing a 10% return and calculates that the company's WACC is 8%. By subtracting the WACC from the return, she sees that for every dollar John's Gym spends, it creates 2 cents of value. If John's Gyms had a WACC of 15%, it would be destroying 5 cents of value for every dollar it invested. If its WACC were 10%, the company would be neither creating nor destroying value, but remaining stagnant. Mary thinks she might pass on this investment because while the company is creating value, it's not creating as much as she'd like to see. However, WACC is just one of several tools she uses to evaluate her potential investment.
Other methods of evaluating the potential investment are payback period, net present value, and the internal rate of return. Payback period is the length of time an investment reaches a break-even point. Here is the formula. As you can see, shorter paybacks mean more attractive
For
investments.
example,
Sonny owns a golf cart manufacturing business in Texas. Sonny's business uses a lot of electricity, and the monthly electric bill is very high. He wants to reduce his bill and is thinking of installing solar panels on the roof of his manufacturing building. It will cost $90,000 to buy and install solar panels. With the panels installed, Sonny estimates his electric bill will have a savings of $24,000. Dividing the total cost of the solar panels, $90,000, by the annual cash flow, $24,000, the payback period is 3.75 years. So in 3 years and 9 months, Sonny will not only reduce his carbon footprint, but also start seeing the benefits of his investment on his electric bill. The payback period equal cost of investment divided by annual cash flows. The main drawback of payback period analysis is that it does not take into account the time value of money. $1 today is worth more than $1 in the future. Payback period also does not take into account what happens after payback, and thus ignores the overall profitability of the investment. These two limitations of payback period analysis are why most managers and investors feel net present value, NPV, is a superior tool for making an investment decision.
Net present value, or NPV, is a difference between the present value of cash inflows and the present value of cash outflows over a period of time. The following formula is used to calculate the NPV. Its concept is that an investment with a positive NPV will be profitable, and an investment with negative NPV will result in a net loss.
In other words,
Net present value is a way of taking a future stream of cash flows and discounting those back into the present day so that you can decide how much you would pay today for that stream of cash flows in the future.
Internal rate of return, or IRR, is a discount rate that makes the net present value of all cash flows from a particular project equal to zero. IRR calculations rely on the same formula as NPV does. One would set NPV equal to zero and solve for the discount rate R, which is the IRR. However, IRR cannot be calculated analytically and must be instead calculated either through trial and error or using software program to calculate IRR. Generally speaking, the higher a project's internal rate of return, the more desirable it is to undertake.
The roles of financial managers. Financial managers make use of an integrated system of analysis that includes financial statements, ratios, financial planning, investment valuation, and capital structure analysis. Each of these tools play a key role with reference to the financial control activity, providing the financial manager with a range of information that helps the company's investment and financing decisions. Second, the financial manager has to take into consideration the effect on the capital structure when any financing decision is evaluated. The third, the financial manager can choose the financing alternative that maximizes the shareholders' value and minimizes the cost of capital. The fourth, the financial manager has to define both a target financing mix and a target return on investments and undertake only the investments or financings consistent with those targets. And the last will be the financial manager has to analyze any financial strategy very carefully and to take into consideration any economic and financial impact that it may have.
So here is the summary takeaways of the topic discussed.
walang knowledge, walang power.